Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Ask Mo. My name is Mo. I'm a lawyer licensed to practice law in Ontario and in Nigeria, and I create content for internationally trained lawyers who are looking to requalify in Canada. I also create content for graduate students and for people who are looking to settle down in Canada and also want to succeed in Canada. And please note that whatever we say in this video is not legal advice. Today's video is one that I want you to really pay attention to, and that's about study permits, work permits, how to transition from a student into a working professional, and also how to transition from the postgraduate work permit into getting your PR as well. I have with me a special guest today. She's not a stranger to our show. Her name is Mrs. Oduwole, and she's an immigration lawyer, and she's also a partner at Topmarke, and she's going to be explaining, this to us and breaking it down. And the first question is it possible to work in school and pay my fees with the money I am earning? So we're just going to have Mrs. Oduwole answer this question for us, and we're going to flow into the conversation. Hi, Mrs. Oduwole.
Hi, Mo. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome.
So is it possible?
Yes.
I would say it's possible to work. But as an international student, you're only allowed to work 20 hours a week.
Yes.
So how much would you earn 20 hours per week when your tuition is 30,000, 20,000, accommodation expenses? Because really, if your focus is to work to pay your school fees, is a breach of your authorization to study in Canada. Because when you come to study in Canada, one of the bona fides of a student is to show that you can afford your tuition, you can afford your cost of living. That's why it's specifically stated on the form. Yes. How much is the tuition? How much is your cost of living? How much do you have as funding?
Yes.
So those two maths must add to how much you have. So allowing students to work is just to keep them busy, to have small pocket money, to acclimatize with the Canadian environment. So it's like a privilege the government is giving international students. It's not an opportunity for them to use that to pay their way through school. And working, so I don't see how you can work 2 hours and pay that fee. Yeah. And if you are trying to work more than the 20 hours, it's a breach of authorization, which could affect the authorization that's been given to a person. And it may even have a very long impact if at the end of the day, a person is caught doing that. And what's part of it is that I've seen quite a number of people have done that. It had also affected their academic performance. So that's another thing. So one should not be penny wise, pound foolish. So trying to work day, night, at the end of the day, because one thing with Canadian education is intensive.
It is.
So, it's easier to pass, but it's intensive, it's deliberate. Assignments, group work, coursework, term paper, bam, 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 bam from the beginning to the end. At the end of the day, before you do 30% exam, if you're consistent, you do well, you can go to sleep because you're already having 50%, 60% before the 30% exam. But it's really intensive. So if you're really busy working, it would affect your performance. So that's one thing that one should know.
And I find that a lot of international students are like, well, how would they know, I need money, I'm going to work extra hours. Is there any way to know, that you're working more than the required more than the allowed 20 hours? Is there any way?
Okay, if they're working officially, it would show on their T4.
Okay.
And some would work under the table. I actually had an experience where I was called for a detention review of an international student. The student was working on campus for the 20 hours. He was not working under the table in, I think, a warehouse where the package for companies. So apparently immigration raid those places from time to time because they know people without status go there to work. Unfortunately, the person was caught there. And they now realize that, do you work? Yes, you work at school and you're working here. The first thing they just wanted to release, that's what the person told me, that another officer now started interviewing, do you work at school? How many hours do you work at school? So that means this is a breach and there is no his cash.
Wow.
So that is the normal term is under the table.
Under the table.
So they just detain the person ready for deportation.
Whoa.
Because it's a breach of term. So I had to go for the detention review so that the person can be released at least before deport. So that's why I said it's penny wise, pound foolish. So one has to be, there are a lot of unintended consequences if one should go that route. So
yeah, I like that you shared that story with us, because a lot of international students are very careless, and you can get deported for working under the table. So why would you want to risk everything just for a few extra dollars? It's not really worth it. So I like that you shared that story with us. Okay, so I want us to also talk about the postgraduate work permits. And from my experience, I know that every international student we all want to get a 3-year postgraduate work permit, because it just gives us enough time to gather ourselves together, get work experience, and eventually apply for PR. So what do you have to say about the postgraduate work permit?
Okay, so postgraduate work permit is 3-year maximum usually, and the length of your study would depend on what you're giving. If your study is less than 2 years. So if your study is within 8 months to 2 years, you just get the permit for that duration. The exception is a master's degree. If your master's degree is like within 18 to 23 months, you get the full 3 years, right? But if you're doing a 4-year course, a 5-year continuous course, the maximum you can get is a 3-year postgraduate work permit. So what I usually advise people, for instance, if you come to a college, you do a 1-year course. If you want to transition to a PR, you need a 1-year work experience. And believe you me, it's not really easy to land a job. And a caveat that people need to know is that you can only get a postgraduate work permit once in a lifetime.
Very important.
So for instance, if you go to a college for 1 year, you apply for postgraduate work permits, you didn't get a job, and you went to another program and did another 1 year, you cannot apply for postgraduate work permit again. So what I usually advise people is, don't apply for postgraduate work permit after a year work, except maybe by the time you are almost done at school, you are fortunate to get a job, so you are sure you can work for 1 year and you apply. But what I advise people to do is, after that 1 year or before the end of the 1 year, apply for another program. So when you do a program of 2 years or more, or the hours is cumulative to be, I think, 1,800 hours for the 2 deputy programs, then you can get the 3 years work permit. It's always a safe net for people to do. And another thing with postgraduate work permit is that it's not automatic. Like you said, students have to be, they have to be very careful. So the rule with immigration is that if you're a student, you must be enrolled and you must have active studies. So being enrolled, having active studies, they are 2 separate things.
Wow.
Being enrolled, so some people, for instance, maybe they have an academic penalty, they are not doing well, they tell them to take a break for a year. They could be enrolled, they are not in active service. I've had students come to me, they reject their postgraduate work permit because though they're enrolled, there's no active studying going on. So it's a breach. Or people that left school for 150 days without the permission. So they say, oh, you can leave school for 250 days, but it must be with the permission of the school. So it's not that you can just go away 150 days. You must get the permission of the school and you must return. Although I've had instances of people who have had to go leave school more than 150 days. Some mental breakdown, some family issues or things like that, and because they would always reject that, or on compassionate grounds they get the work permit. So it's very important to note that. And another thing, when applying for postgraduate work permits, it must be applied for within 180 days when a person gets the transcript or the letter. And one thing with immigration is that postgraduate work permit is strict. I'm telling you, authorities are more liberal with visit visa, work visa. Postgraduate work permits, very tight. They cross the T's and dot the I's with the requirements. So if you don't do it within the 180 days, no matter how much you've studied, you missed it.
Wow.
Another thing that is important is that by the time you are applying, your study permit must be valid. So let's assume you studied for 4 years, you got a 4-year visa. By the time you got your transcript, your visa had expired. You can't get a postgraduate work permit.
Wow.
Most people, there's a difference between a study visa and a residence visa, the temporary resident visa, and people make that mistake. The temporary resident visa is what allows you to go out and come in. So even if you have a valid study visa, you don't have a temporary resident, if you go out, you can't come in. So not only must your study visa be valid, the resident visa as well must be valid, But the good thing is that there are some exceptions that even if you had problem meeting any of this, even if you leave Canada, you can still apply for postgraduate work permit outside of Canada. So there are some exceptions to that rule. But the best thing is just to do this thing right, from the beginning. So that's one thing we usually do for our clients. We do an education for them. So when you come in, we let them know, my clients that we do work study permit for, we tell them these are the check marks of milestones. So you make sure at this point you contact immigration, at this point this is what you ought to do. So at least they know, because and I also tell them they should avail themselves of the international office. There are a lot of opportunities, facilities that you don't have to have an edit. The international office is there. They would advise you, you need to apply at this time. And I know some schools even help people to complete the forms and do that. So one should avail oneself of the opportunity. So postgraduate work permit is not just, because I've studied, I can go, There are rules, and the rules are strictly applied. So it's very important for foreign students to note that. Because at the end of the day, I can imagine a parent that spent millions, at the end of the day, compared to whatever currency, some at the end of 4 years will be spending almost 500,000, 400,000, depending on the cost of study or location. And their dream is for you to stay in Canada and have a PR. Because if you can't get the postgraduate work permit, you are not different from any other foreign national who is coming from the country where they're coming from.
Yes.
So that opportunity is lost. The only advantage is that if you're feeling express entry, you can gain points that you studied in Canada, So it's really important one pay attention to all those information. And I tell people, if in doubt, consult. Some consultation, maybe 300, 150, 500, depending on the level of the person. So you're just paying 500 and it's saving you millions of amount of money. So when in doubt, just go and get consultation. All you need is guidance. Even if you don't want to pay for that service, let people direct you. You're doing the right thing. This is how to go. And I think it's very important international students avail themselves of that opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. I like the fact that you really spoke about the fact that because you studied here doesn't mean you are guaranteed a postgraduate work permit. And I'm seeing that a lot. A lot of people feel like, I'm entitled to it. It's my right, a postgraduate work permit because I studied here. And it's not true. And I also like the fact that you mentioned some other things as well, because some international students, from my experience, they are very careless. I've heard so many stories of people not applying within, I think 180 days or missing something, and you're just like, who were you looking at? Why were you not careful enough? I also had to make use of the international office in because I remember I was traveling to Nigeria for my to get called to the Nigerian bar, and I had issues with I think I applied for a new study permit, it had not come, and I was so confused, and I just went to the international office. They have great resources and they are happy to, that's why they are there. That's why they are there, and they will always help international students, if you have any issues regarding immigration. And we already did a video, myself and Miss Oduwole, about PR and how to immigrate to Canada with the different PR methods and all of that. So in case you have not watched that video, I would maybe put the link in the description box below so you guys can watch that video. So if you're looking to come into Canada for graduate school or for undergrad and you need to apply for your study permits or any of this other applications, make sure you use Mrs. Oduwole's law firm. It's called Topmarke, and she's an immigration lawyer. She's also a managing partner at the law firm, and they will be happy to help you and assist you with your immigration needs. If you're here to subscribe to my channel, make sure you subscribe to my channel and also turn on your notification bell so that you will get a notification whenever I upload new videos. Also like this video and share this video if you found it very helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode of Ask Mo. Bye.